Okay, so here we go with step 206. In 205, we connected our website to our database. We created a database and a table and inserted a row. And now in this step, what we're going to do is take that information that we inserted into that row, that user table, and we're going to display it in our profile page by using the connection that we put in our config and pulling the data from the database to the page, to the profile page. First thing we want to do, as usual, is go to our Dreamweaver, and we're going to take our step 205 folder and we're going to duplicate it. Rename it to step 206. Of course, we don't update. And let's just refresh our local file so that we see it on top there. And we're going to open that up a while. And before we go check anything, let's go into our config and let's change our step number to 206. We'll save that. We'll close that. And I'm going to go ahead and push this up to my server as well, so I can go out and I can check everything. Here we are on our local host, step 206. Hit refresh, and there I have it. And everything looks good. Let's make sure that our profile page is there. That's the page we're going to be working on. And there it is. And let's go check our remote, our web server. And it's still uploading. We'll go ahead and position it for the profile page, and we'll wait for that to come. That's still uploading to the server. And while we're waiting for that to upload, quick overview of some of the things we're going to do. And we are going to pull the data from the database to populate this user profile in a way that when we finally get to our login page, we'll be able to have multiple users, and this will be specific to the user that's logged in. In order to do that, we are going to modify our menuBuilder function to include these static pages that we've put in, the profile settings, log out, and we're going to set it up for login and things of that nature. For this lesson, we're basically just going to be logged in. We're also going to learn about session variable, session, and we're going to set a session name so that we can use it to draw this information. So we'll hop back here, take a look, see if our profile page made it up. We made it up, we're good. We got some good things going on here. And so I think the first thing that we're going to go after is changing this menu around, making this menu so that we actually can access the profile and the login and log out and settings pages that we created. The way that we're going to go at that, of course, is in our changelog. We can go ahead and take a look at our functions. And as I have been doing, instead of typing, I'm basically copying and pasting so that we can discuss and take a look at the code rather than take time focused on writing the code. I'll go ahead and close that config page, and what I want now is to go to my includes function page, and I'm just going to replace the whole page with the code, and then we're going to talk about it. So what we did, if we look at our old function, we can see basically all we're doing is looping through our JSON, our object that we create with JSON, and creating links that are used to dynamically pull page content. Well, now what we need to do is we have some static pages that are involved, and in order to get those pages, what we need to do is we bring them in, and what we're looking for is what our current menu link is, and then we're building our menu return, right? So we're actually building the menu like we were before. But what we've added in is we have our loop where we go through our loop, and what we're looking for is as it's looping through the items, when it hits U, instead of actually using the U and its sub items, what we're doing is we're telling it to come in and we're looking to see if the username is set and not empty, meaning if somebody is logged into the system. So if this session variable, which we read about in our lesson, username is set and it's not empty, meaning it doesn't have a zero, null, nothing in it, then what we want to do is we want to return the menu items of, if it's not set, right? We want to return a login link to go to the login PHP page, or a register link to go to the register PHP page. But if it is set, what we'll do is we'll actually tuck into the U, below U, we'll tuck in there the profile link, settings link to the settings PHP page, or the logout PHP page. And so what this allows us to do is bypass the profile and the other settings inside the JSON file that we don't really want to use at this point, because we want to pass them off to these pages that we've created over here. And of course, if it's not U, if it's not under U, we just treat it as normal, and we go ahead and we build out the submenus with recursion. So that's basically what we've done inside of our menu PHP function. And if we go out and we take a look, and we can see right now on our local host, we're getting what we've been getting all along up to this point, that's been coming out of that JSON file for our menu. But if I refresh, I can now see I'm getting that login and register. Right now there is no session name set, there is no session. So of course, as it's coming through and it's looking and it hits that U inside the JSON, instead of building the submenu, it goes into this little algorithm of figuring things out. And if there is no username set, session username set, we get the login and the register PHP, which is what we've seen. Now, how do we deal with that? Well, we're gonna need this session username set when we do go into pulling our data for our profile page, which we'll see and we'll talk about when we get to that point. But for now, what we're going to do is open up our config file, and temporarily we're just going to make a login in our site for a user, so that we're able to pull the data and treat things like we're already logged in, that we've done the login. We will do the login page, but we're kind of working in small steps. And right now we're just looking at what do we do to get the data from the database to the page. So if I go out to my changelog and I'm looking through it, I'll close up the functions. We've updated the menuBuilder function, and I'm going to hop ahead to the config page. And the only difference now is that we're actually setting a session variable, and we're going to use it with the username student. And so if we put that in the bottom of our config page and we hit save, well, we have to put it first, and then we hit save, and we go back out to our local page and we look and we know we have login and register. At this point, we get profile, settings, and log out, and these are actually going to these pages, by the way, which are currently blank. We have nothing in them, and the reason that happened is because when we do build the login process, what'll happen is it will set the session username, and of course, because the session username was set, it is set. Right? Not, this is looking for if it is not set, it is set, right? It's pushing it down into providing these links to our profile settings and our logout. Great. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to close that out. And I'm going to close our config page because we're done in there now. We've made those changes to the config page. Basically, we're faking out the application, making it appear as though we're logged in. And we're going to go ahead and take a look at our profile page now. In our profile page, we have a bit of code to put in there, because what we want to do is pull data from the database about the user that's currently logged in. And so if I go ahead and I put my code in here, first of all, we can see that we put in our HTML. Go to design view. We can see that we've put in our HTML. And basically what that HTML is allowing us is to have a profile picture, information, and then of course we're applying some bootstrap CSS to it, which makes it look nice. We're going to go back into the code now, and we're going to take a look at the code. First thing, let's go ahead and save it. And I'm going to take another peek here. And there's our information. We can take care of making things look nice when we go into refactoring some code in one of the next steps. For now, don't get hung up on little things like movement of something. We can capture that. Let's stay focused on the idea that we're getting this data now. We're pulling the name from the database. We're pulling, we're not pulling an email address yet, but we're pulling the username. We're pulling the creation date and the last updated, the modification date from the database. Let's go see how we're doing that. So what's happening is we're all familiar with our our config, which makes our DB connection, our functions, which gives us our menuBuilder and get page function. And then, of course, our header, which gives us the top of our page. What's new in here is that what we're looking for is we're defining a variable. We don't want to use session username all throughout the page. So we want to just go ahead and set it. And the way that we're setting it is if we're saying if it is set, right, then username is equal to the session username. Else, it's equal to nothing. So in this case, we know our username came through a student. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to check, and we're just some extra checking, and make sure the username is set before we start building our query. At this point, we've clarified that our username is good, and what will happen in this case is this will actually be replaced with the value student, and we're doing a select all. So that's basically saying select everything from the users table where the username is username. If we wanted just the modification date, if we just wanted one or a couple columns, we could put them in here. But we want the full payload of information. We tell it, our link object, to go ahead and run a query against the database using the SQL that we created, and it gets captured into this object, where if you really wanted to see what that looked like, what we could do is a var dump, and we can put our result in there, and we can save it. And let's go see what that gives us. What we can see is what it gave us was our information that's in the database. It's letting us know, first of all, our dump lets us know where it came out of. It's giving us the information of the fact that we got 7 fields out of the information, and it is displaying the idea that we now are able to pull data from the database. It's showing that it's successful, and now what we can do is we can turn that information into an associative array. If we do that and we take our var dump and we move it down to here underneath our associative array, we can go ahead and take a look and see what that looks like now. So we'll go ahead and we'll save that. We'll come out. We'll do a refresh, And of course, now you can see it took even the information that we couldn't see in the result object, it was there. And it's given us the information that we are looking for. Not only does it give us, the value, but it also gives us the data type. We can see what the data type is, and we can use that to check on things. We can, it gives us the length, so we can check and see, is there information in there? And it helps us to know how to use our data as we're going through and using our database. I'm going to go ahead and get rid of that. And as we saw, because we can say, hey, username, give us the information from username, we can say row, first name, last name. We have the username, so we don't really need that. I apologize, I should have said first name out here, JSON, right? And last name, last modified, and created. And what we're doing is we're populating variables, declaring and populating variables that we can use down below. We'll do something more graceful in here later. We'll actually do a email to ourselves, to an admin, letting us know that something went wrong in this process, so we can stay on top of maintenance and keeping on top of our site. But for now, we know it's successful. And now we've declared and we've made these variables. These will go away when we close the connection. So we've declared our variables, and now we're going to go ahead and close our database connection and just deal with our values that we have and our variables that we established. You can see in this if statement, it comes down to an else. And this else is basically, hey, if you are not logged in and there's no information, I'm sending you to the login page. There's no reason that you should be here, and I'm going to send you to the login page and exit out of the application altogether. And so that's exactly what would happen. If we go ahead and we save this and we open up our config page and we come down where we set that session variable and we comment it out and save it. And we come up here and we go to our profile, we can see it just pushes us right to our login page. If I do it again, profile, it pushes us right to that login page. Nobody has, there's no reason for anyone to be there if they're not logged in. And so if we go and remove what we did, hit save again, go out, go to our profile, we can see it lets us there, and there we are at our profile. Great. So we've taken the information. I'm going to close out that, leave that session uncommented. And we've created our variables, and in our HTML, we'll come down through and we'll just echo out those values where they belong. And as we move along in this project, this page will become more and more complete with more detailed information. But for now, we just are focused on those couple variables, that little bit of information that we're pulling from the database so we can display it on the page. And at this point, I feel comfortable enough that I believe we can go out to our remote site as well. I'm going to refresh our local. Local looks good. Always nice to work on local because you can save and go and look. You don't have to wait for the push or things of that nature. If I go to my profile, well, we got to get this going first. So profile. Actually, I should just be able to do it like this. And if everything's right, it should give me my profile right up here, which it does. And I go to my profile page, and we're doing the same thing on our web host now. And it's pulling from our web host database. And it's essentially the same as it was when it was on our local host. So that's how we're pulling data from the database. We have some information in the lesson about the SQL select statement, as well as the session variable. Session variables are very important. They hold a lot of information for us. They help us create that application feel, keep information available for people so that as they traverse the site, that information just follows them around. So that completes step 6. And in step 7, I believe it is, we're going to start looking at logging in. We're going to actually make it so we can log in and get rid of that variable that we set there.